Setting up tone division locations of line settings, direction of twine line interference, try to understand the communication at all levels. This opens up all positions of vertebrae line conditions, certain res location of scale lines. Sign line interference location of spine lines, high interference and track line communication, position of program location settings. It's all direct signals and set lines to all set locations interference. This opens all channel operation locations. So we have a quiz coming up, and set lines of the sun. Now the operation of pi, but the 12 line signature line position at 24 ground line setting. The team is in 144 DNA line calculation setting, but the direct signal has to understand its graph line stream into stargates. Stargates opens all position, location, high center interference calculations position. So it's going to get more complicated because the condition of Schuman Renaissance is going to turn into a geographical map that's sending line communication and tone division, setting calculation line, electrical line interference, line condition, electrical settings, and position megahertz, megajoules, megawatts, and calculations to its gigawatts. Now, line calculation interference is calculating how you use megawatts set line calculation setting when a graph line stream location near 12 DNA. This sets up a router aligning on rotations to its position location and moon lines, operation to its surface location and ground line to its computer operations, compute sys location, your settings. Now, the CPU unit line in a rotation and set line communication system has to understand its residence and set lines to its gravity line interference. Setting communication lines in gravity, it has to really understand the resistance location of channel, the streamlines the location of its awareness of its memory set location system. The track line calculation system of all levels of flash drive memories that opens all signal location to its position. So we really have to understand how to use it for the location setting. This all levels its travel location in your DNAs. It operates at signal locations when your higher calculates its position, the track lines. Recognizing the communication is really understanding emotional line track, okay? The center communication is really understand how to volume its line setting, okay? This values you on your own calculation of ground lines, operation to its service. Setting that communication comes in this positions. Now, in that lines, we set the lines of a graph line and set locations, right? Now, we start with this line communications, right? In set line conditions. All right, we start with that lines, right? Now, the line communications triangulation is coming into this set line conditions. So, opening signals, high center line position, and track communication. Setting track lines of high center line, high interference is setting lines of high calculations, right? So, setting lines of lacing lines of communication, graph and stream lines and operation to its surface location to its settings. Okay, see all the line calculation now? Setting that track lines and line interference comes into higher calculations. You got a mega line interference. Let's set up a correlation panel, calculations, line settings, into position locations, into red. Okay, security line setting. So the actual one graph line stream of Schuman resonance is a 12 signature pattern. Now that 12 signature pattern is a rotation spin cycle. Okay, so it's zero line position location of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set locations, right? And that line communications comes into 3 central bolts, right? You got 0 lines of 1, 1. You got 0 lines in position of 1, 2. It's a line communication system. 0 equals line position of 8 lines of 1, set location setting, right? So you have to really recognize the calculation line interference of 0 gravity, splitting set lines of communication, right? So that 0 lines is operation to its omega, position of operation to its surface, calculations to 0 line of its center communication to 0 line of its set locations, graphing streams, security perimeters, and positions of block line settings. Now, high calculation line interference is setting line position location into 0, into 12 set line condition setting, centers its communication into its triangulation line calculation setting, indirect signals to higher graph line setting location in its set system. Okay. Now, you guys have a quiz based on alpha channels, line setting, line interference. So we got an alpha line wave. We got a delta signal position, operation surface. We got a mega channel, operation line calculation. And we got a beta signal line interference in vibrational graph lines. And we got a theta line rotation surface, sensor locations, in voicing patterns, direction of time sequence, and set location system, and turret signals. Okay. Now, each video graph line has 12 signatures. Okay, because it's connected to your DNA line setting. Okay, each one has 12. So each one has a rainbow graph line setting line interference and positions to your pyramid set line connection system, the ground lines, operation surface, and set location system. All right. So let's change that into black line interference, set the road graph lines of routers, sending communication position track line high setting, open node communication to its position. All right, so channel streamlines, operation surface and set location. Now this channels the lines of communications into flux capacitor center lines, right down the middle. Okay, and then you come to this line, into this line, the three waving line settings. Okay, so this really understands electrical line graph. Now it gets complicated because the vertebrae are changing line settings. You start with a 0 line in position of 1 and 2. Now it sets the position of 2 and 3 set line conditions into 4 and set line condition, right? So that's 4 channel line, center line, and positions. We go into lines of different wave center of communication voice line grids and position of the protection streamline set locations. Now this channels lines of 3 line. That's a high calculation of Fibonacci, setting in position double helix, and 3 set line condition setting and direct signal. Directing signal line interference of triangulation position locations into a pyramid activation line center location, center position. Operation streamlines into hall calculation setting in position of film strips and set line condition system and position of traction. Traction lines center laser direct locations in inhibitors, sending communications in another triangulation setting and direct signals. Setting direct signals to 2 panels of operation line condition system and track setting. See intelligence? Setting track lines of high center line interference of 0 gravity, power and time lines, center communication system in an atom line center rotations in geometry location of a set location of its orb channel of operation stream. Done by equation. All right. So it's importantly understanding the Schuman resonance is line communicating interference. It's got 2 panels of operation, right? So it's a laser location setting, indirect high setting, and position location high setting or interference. Now line communication comes into graph lines. Now we set up the voice line grids, setting up a channel and communication, right? Channels lines as rotations into 0 in position of 1 in position of 2, right? Now we don't go past that line calculation line position because the earth throw pattern doesn't understand the rectangle location at ground lines. The operation surface has to really understand the communication of 0 lines into power direction of time lines and center communication in set line high variance. Setting line communications into 2 lines, 1 position of 2, and then we go into 3 in the center in position of triangulation into a diamond core line setting. Calculation in the line direct locations into 3 set line condition setting, track lines, setting communications, setting interference, in position to your DNA and track line connections. That my equation. All right. So you guys are line centers of 1, 0, 1. Okay. Setting calculation graph lines in 12. Setting line condition and positions equal lines of 12. Setting position of 12 set locations. All right. So that's 30 channels line setting. Okay. So we take the 3 lines of 6. Now 6 lines of communication and moon operation to its surface. Center's lines is lines, dips at center location is center lines into 6 positions. Center lines crosses stream, flux capacitor calculations opens up a gateway and center line calculations setting. Center communication to its post, center communication at ground lines of an operation location of 0 gravity and set location system. This channels this line streamline interference of rainbow activation line and a rotation position of track line communication. Setting lines at graph lines, 12 lines center line interference of travel communication. Sun comes in the opposite direct location setting. Now that direct line center line and position locations into 3 lines in position of 6, 6 position location of 7, sets lines of equal lines of 5, 5 location of 12, 12 line interference of 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, all the way to 12 line settings. Direction of timeline sequence line position locations into 144 measure. Calculation line interference into box line constant triangulation, triangulation line interference in position of pyramid line rotation position, 0 operation line calculation setting, calculation over line position of 0 line calculation setting, flux path communication system done by equation. So it gets more complicated. So recognizing frequency is understanding, yes, make sure you drink your waters. All right, so we got the line center lines of 1 and 0 in position of 1 line. Now the track line communication run across the signal location center line interference. Sending communication is 0, 1, 1, position location of 0, 1 line setting. Now the 0 line crosses its streamline, and 1 line rotates its surface, and 1 line operates its signal, and 1 line communicates to its console calculation line setting. This opens up graph line streamline calculation setting and position location to its intelligence. Setting calculation line interference into its pyramid activation line, rotation positions, and position height setting and track locations. Done by equation. All right. So center communication is going to put you in line settings now. Your line communication is now in lines of 101, line conditions of 51, line setting, line interference, waiting signal location of 52. Line calculation setting 144, track line communication in box, set lines of triangle, box line position of triangle, box line position of triangle locations. All right. Now we take the box lines into one, we take the 4 lines into one, we take the 4 lines into one set locations. That's 1, 2, and 3 set locations. Now 3 line center sets is center communication, center lines of 2, that's 2 lines of 5, and set line of triangulation. That centers its communications to its moon, operation to its surface. Center calculation line interference. So we take the box line, position of box line, set location system, opens all triangle line and center communication in position location of sun in the opposite direct location setting. It sets an operation line signal in position of alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega, and set location of gamma. Signal line interference and travel communication system. 1 line, 0 line in Schuman Renaissance, line position of 1 lines, operation of circle, operation of 1 line, center communication line interference of box lines of triangle lines and set locations high setting, Merkaba position up lines of north, center communication triangulations, all levels high center interference, calculation of line positions, all levels of travel. Done by equation. All right. So recognizing frequency patterns is a dimensional screen. Now, setting up a dimensional screen is really understanding how to get in higher calculation settings. Indirect line settings, voice grid line rotation, surface locations, channels of setting, and high calculations to its mega. The mega line interference, we got a 1 UFO line setting, and we got 1 line setting and 1 line setting locations, right? 3 sets line calculation and triangulation. Now, it travels lines, electrical line, sets a panel communication around it. Setting lines of travel communication into 0 lines in position of location of 5, in position of all calculation of 0, into 0, 0, 0, 3 line setting. Now this comes into 2 line tracks, sets position in 1 and lines of 0 gravity location system and all set line conditions. Okay. Sequence parallel calculation and triangulation lines of 3 set line setting. Okay. Hola. Triangulation line interference of diamond core lines of shift lines of dimensional line rotations into its moon shift location. Setting channel line interference of sun comes into the opposite direct location setting, travels its line communications back and forth until it understands its lines of a Schuman Renaissance location system. All right. Now, once it understands the line channels, sets line communication of 0, 0 in position of 2 and 2 and 2. Securing line position locations and position line setting. 0, 0, 0, equal line conditions of 1. Gets complicated because now we're coming into 0, 1 line center rotation surface, setting calculation ground lines, operation line, setting location position, setting calculation line interference, setting line connection line system into delta, delta into theta, center line communication, general levels of triangulation, and it comes into box lines, and pyramid line rotation interference, 3 waving patterns, Fibonacci line sequence, line condition site center in the sun, operates its signal location in the opposite direct location settings, 12 line signature patterns, line rotation surface, and set locations. Done by equation. All right. Setting signals of operation surface is to understand how to set position, location, and tone lines. Now, the calculation line interference sets pattern recognition, location settings, and direct signals and set location. This channel is this line center. We get to 0 line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm changing the Schuman resonance in all second line conditions. You have 60,000 graph line streams. 1 block center line calculation system. That's 1 billion centers of operation. All right. 6, 7, 8, 9. We start with 9 settings, right? So 9 lines basically goes into back force line centers into 3 set line conditions. So we got 1 line conditions into positive line conditions of negative. All right. Positive negative line setting, positive negative line setting, positive, and position of positive. So we got 2 positive line settings of 2, 2, 2 positive line centers of 2, 2, line conditions of 4, 4, generation line interference of double helix location setting, travel calculation in its position. Now, taking a 4 line streamline interference and 4 line communication setting into 0 lines into position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set location, right? This channels this line center line condition opens up its sun and operation surface. Sets line communication of 12 line signature line position location programs into 6 lines in position of 5, in position of 4, bracket line interference, location of 7, set line conditions of 7 line settings, in triangulation surface in 3 set location. All right, done by equation. All right. Energetic graph lines line interference location is all about understanding the operation set locations. We got zero gravity line interference, right? Steady calculation line interference, traffic communication system 101, right? That's where you guys are. Now, line calculation setting lines position of 1, line conditions of 4, and center line communications in 4 line setting. Now, this opens up signal location of center line of communication. Now, this centers lines the system higher level calculation into a higher channel operation to a magnetic highway information setting. Setting calculation line interference, electrical line, electrical line, electrical line in 3 panels. Electrical line, electrical line, electrical line, and ground lines, operation of surface. This sets at high position locations in its torical field. Torical field lines its communication setting, opens all channel line interference, sets line communications into an open sequence in set location above. Setting calculations in its center lines in position location high setting. Track interference in ground line operation stream to its locations. Setting panels lines and highest center line interference in set location travel lines, indirect location system, and track lines high center and direct location setting. Indirect signals and set locations. All right. Now, this indicates line calculation setting how to use the 100 in 51 platitude line interference, a phenomenal line rotation position of high calculation system. You got UFO line and center location in east, and UFO line and center location in scan lines, scanning direct lines, operation surface and set location system, and track line. Setting calculation line interference, crossing streamline calculation system, opening up signals in the opposite locations into high calculation setting, indirect signal. Done by equation. All right. Setting channels of operation line setting is really understand how to set positions, location, and tracks. So we got 2 panels line rotations, laser locations, and one-way set locations, right? Cross and positions. Now, to really understand how to surface its line communication of its position. Now, this channels its line stream. Now, we have the open sequence, center line connection system, ground lines, operation of surface, and magnetic highway information lines to its cerebral cortex location. Remember, we do the channel line stream. We got a cross line stream line center locations, triangulation line setting, line interference, 2 position mirror resolution line calculation setting. This opens up signal location to the sun and position location to its moon, set location system. Travels line center line interference in position of force line communication, set locations. Done by equation, right? Rest of time sequence location of panels. Now this opens up Stargate line settings. This reconnects high center line interference and track communications. All right, so we set up the Stargate line setting rotations. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 set lines in one Stargate. Open through sequence location. Center channels lines. Lines, interference. Set lines communication to its position. Travels this line signals lines its all position location in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set line conditions. Travel calculation lines in an opposite cycle set location of a seat pod. Rest of time sequence center lines is operation surface and set locations in power line recognition time sequence. Center calculation of 0 lines and set location system and track line communication. Center calculation line interference and high calculation line setting. This all lines in a rotation surface and set location to its sun, the opposite rotation system, crisscrossing line conditions. Sun's lines its operation, moon sets its position track lines in kaleidoscopic communication in a surface line setting. Done by equation. All right. Now, the Schuman Renaissance is calculate and modify how you set line calculation in your grids. That's right, Chris. 0 line, center line interference, and positional all levels, flux path communication, right? Get the team set line in electrical lines, electrical panels, electrical interference, electrical programs into its atom rotation surface. Done by equation. So the atom line is circling its center line communication of point systems into 3 tracks. All right, travel communication and line settings. Stops on point. X marks the spot. 3-point line center. There's the X. X line centers lines its communication of travels and line calculation setting. Redirect signal location to its position of panel. This sets line condition of 1 measure, line conditions all levels, latitude line interference, location is its computation system, computation line CPU, CPU line interference into magnetron line interrotations, calculation high center interference, calculation line interrotation position locations, box lines center over here, east line in position locations, south line in position locations into west line calculation, triangulation line interference, triangulation line interference, triangulation interference, 3 channel line interference of 3, 3, 3, center communications, box lines, 3 box line center location at 333, center of communications, heart, mind, and soul, heart, mind, and soul. Write some timelines, allocate position of timelines into a test or a channel operation line setting, into a Merkaba set line high center line interference, sending communication to the sun, sending communication to the moon, operation to set location and travel, and set line conditions. Done by equation. All right. It's very complicated what I'm doing. All right. So setting signals is really understand how to set a line communication in zero lines. This sets line communications. So you got a pattern recognition of voice line. This opens all channel line condition system. So we work with the omega, setting communication voice line, set lines high center interference, and travel communication. Now this grid's line centers line condition to its umbrella. 1, 2, 3 set line condition setting. Satellite, satellite, satellite. 3 set line conditions travels. Center communications in position. Sun comes in line, travels line center, UFO line rotation. Calculates line interference, another UFO line rotation setting. Another UFO line rotation setting, 3 set location system. Travels communication ground lines, operation surface, operation surface, operation surface locations. Done by equation. All right. 3 channel line interference line conditionized system, all high center and positions. Now we put the 5 lines, 5 lines, 5 lines. Your bracket communication line center location is 7. All right. 7 line conditions of 8, 8 position location lines of 8, 8 position locations. Center communication of 9, 9, 9, 9. Center line conditions of 3. Line condition of 1, 2, 3. Set lines of high interference. Setting calculations line position of 4. Lines equals lines of 0, 0, 0, 0. Operation bracket location setting and track center. Track center line interference. Sun communication line sets high center location in its moon into higher calculation setting in travel communication. Down by equation. All right, so that's set up. Code signal line interference of code activation line streams. Setting direct signals in set location system. You have to really understand the travel lines of set line condition setting. Direct line interference. Setting electrical line graphs. Set lines and high interference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line signals. Now that signal line interference, that's line position at alpha, comes in at delta, that's theta line interference. Omega into gamma, sigma, equal line condition plus line. Calculations into negative line, into 1 line sector in line condition system, volumes, velocity, and acceleration line conditions. Opens all channel line streamlines, moon operation surface location to its sun, and set location communication system. Down by equation. Center lines of calculation line interference is understanding travel settings. Now, travel setting is really understand how to use the magnetic highway information line communication of position. Center calculation is 0 lines in line communication to its atom line rotation surface. Setting calculation line operation of surface in position locations. Travel lines, voice recognition line calculation, electrical line communication. Center lines of 0 in position of 0. Bounce calculation line interference of 0. Calculation line and line rotation of 0, 1 in set location setting. Down by equation. All right. Center lines of 0 line calculation system is 1 over 0 over 1. So that's 1, 0, 1 line calculations in bracket line calculation line interference of 7 line conditions of 5 on position location of 12. 12 sets line to 24. Sets calculation of clock lines, travel calculation setting. 24 lines of 48 window line calculation system, 72 line setting, in position of 144. You're always going to see any line communication to its crystal grid in set locations. Now the 144 sets lines of 0 line rotation surface and higher calculation. Setting line position locations into box line calculation lines and travel communication to reception lines. Graph line streams, coloration lines, settings of arc line surface, location to position higher levels of the sun line communication system, and track communication. Done by equation. All right. Center communication of 0 line. So understanding all line, center line, and interference. So we got a 0 line, ozone line, rotation interference. We got box line. Box position location lines of triangulation. Triangulation line, center line condition system, DNA. DNA sets line position locations on levels of 12. 12 sets line condition of 12. Set line condition of 12. Center line position of 3 is set locations. Right? 3 lines, it's 4 line. That equals lines of 7. 7 sets line position locations into its box into its triangulation line position. It's set locations. All right? Done by equation. So setting up signal locations of X, Y, in line conditions of Z, and Z line interference, X line condition at highest center location at its levels of ground lines. 4 generation lines in position locations into 12 signals. It set lines and high interference in position to its sun of operation surface. Done by equation. All right, code signaling, code streaming. Routers line calculation line condition of cell phones, center line and position of track line, is understanding how to use the graph line stream. Now it's complicated stuff because You have to really understand how it volumes its set location system when it comes into higher levels of calculations. So again, line interference of zero gravity, because you guys line communication of 1 in position of 0 and position line calculation set. One line brackets is line communication system and track line. A center lines is zero line. Center lines at zero line communications. Magnetic highway information line, tube line center line interference of 6 communication settings. Center line positions of its moon, operation of service locations. Center lines its calculations off ground line, setting line interference and travel communications. Crosses signals and set location system and track line, the equation. So setting zero operational line calculation system at 12 lines is recognizing frequency patterns. Now, frequency patterns, just like calculation setting. So you come into the waveline settings in set location system. Channel line, stream lines, and set line calculation system in Schuman Renaissance. Same with pattern line and rotation set calculation system. Travel just line set locations in position of 0, 9, the set line condition system. Now the 10, 11, and 12 is a triangulation of 3, right? So you got a 10 line in position of 11 line and a 12 line set location, right? So knowing exactly what a Schuman resonance is understanding the graph line streams. So let's box it in set line condition system, high calculation line setting, and set location system. Now that travel line, center line interference sets waving line center location at 12. This opens all signals and set location system. That's why you see all this in line calculations, right? Showing you how the graph is set up. All right, that's how the graph line center is set up. Electrical lines, electrical line interference sets line condition and graph line streams, set location system. This opens up more channels of operational line calculations, okay, to your alpha line settings. All right, some timelines. Anything in the center line is a signal location of channel, okay? Now that signal line, channel line interference sets the line condition of 3 lines, setting the line position of voice line grids. That's what it's coming into now. It's coming into all calculations of pattern recognition. Pattern recognition lines of alpha and line condition setting, all position of delta and theta. Center communication is only in 3 set line condition system. Like I said, 10, 11, and 12. Setting line calculation center equal lines of 0, equal location of 9, and acceleration line setting, indirect signal. Down by equation. All right, setting signal location into a Schuman line center location is 0 lines. Setting line communications and position location high system. Travel line calculation lines is center line communication, right? Center lines is line communication, magnetic highway information of its cloud. Cloud lines is center line and opens all signal location system. Travel communication lines, and set lines at 3 set location system. Travel lines, center line, and grav line rotation interference and set lines communication. Channels this line signals and set location downwind, crosses line string to upwind, center calculation line crosses line interference and set location high center, travel communication line in position opens high signal location of the channel, channel communication crisscross its line signature line conditions, UFO comes in, setting calculations, scans all operation signals and set line calculation setting and 0 operation. Powerful, isn't it? Done by equation. All right, so coming into frequency channel is line conditions of dimensional setting. Now, dimensional setting is line connecting all levels of wave set locations. That's right, Jeps. Waves, and set line conditions, all right? So line setting is lines of 3 and set location of 6 and position location of 9, right? Center lines of 9 equal lines of 0. Crosses over lines. 0 equals 9 and 0 equals 9, right? So it crosses lines of 0 into 9 in position of 0. And the calculations again is 0. Change lines of 6, multiple line interference, that's negative or positive in equal locations. Subtract line to line rotation. Calculation lines in location of 5, line condition high interference in position location of 1. Sets line position of 0. So we take the line communications, change the 6 lines into 9. We flip it up line center, switch line communications. So line center, 0 equals 9 equals 0. And we take the 0 line in line communication system. So we take the 3 lines, indicate line interference, back force calculations for line center line interference, line condition high system. So subtract line and 3 line interference with the line communications into all side line interference. 3 over 3 line center locations high setting. Track line communication system. Volumes is line calculation line setting. Sets communication into 5 through 8. Equal line conditions of 1. Line conditions of 9. Equal lines of 0. Operation surface. And then 0 ground line rotations and wave and central communication. Done by equation. It's all set up. So how are we doing through signature pattern communication line streams? All right. trying to understand what's going on with our location settings. Because you guys have a quiz coming up, right? So you have to really be more informative of what's going on with your set lines and communication. Baller, Tina, Gypsy, Heather, Chris, Chula, Johnny, Andre. Can I say Gypsy, Trinity, Captain, Danielle? Yeah, there's a lot of connection line settings now. Geneva. All right. So we all have to understand how to use the central communication or wave lines because it's all calculated equal line center line interference, changing 3 panels of communication to its matrix stream and center line condition system, 3 line centers into 4 line set rotations. Okay, that channels this line center line interference with 0 lines of 7, 0 lines of 7, and 0 lines of 7, and 0 lines of 7. Portal communication setting, track line communication setting, setting that communication system into all channels of operation. 7777. Cosmic universe line center line is now set up into line communication of travel. Direction of time seed locations comes to all levels of Hall calculations. Merging calculates over pi line condition system. Power of pi direction of timeline sequence. Putting track lines of high center line condition system to your lines of 0 to 12 through rotation. Done by equation. Right, so your cosmic universe line string location in your digital code line interference is now set up positions. All right, track interference, 4 panels line stream, 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. All right, we crisscross line center line interference of 45-degree angle locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations. All right, center lines of calculation line interference, 0 line, 0 line, 0 lines, like tic-tac-toe. Right, X is in the middle. So it's really interesting. So we got the 0 operation, we got 0 travels, and the 0 calculations. Right? Travel line interference, sun comes in the line communication, crosses stream in 12 line signature line calculations. All right, there's the sun. Now the operation surface sets line communications and downshift. The cross line stream sets lines of travel and travels on its own, setting new perimeter parameters in set lines at calculation setting. Now, directing signal line interference, we take the 0 line operation, the 0 line circuit locations, open up the moon and the operation surface, and the redirect signal locations into 1V line setting into the sun of the moon operation. Done by equation. Let's all set up. Geometry line signature patterns, rotation surface locations of all position track location settings, redirecting signals and set locations. All right, this is merging council calculations settings here, ancestry calculations to your structural communications operation surface. 0 operation line, center line, position locations into 12 lines into 12 lines. So that's line condition of 36 in triangulation. Box in position, crosses over, box in position locations. Triangulation line setting, triangulation line interference, and center communication of 0, operation to flux capacitor communication. All right, now, understanding what's going on line interference of 36 field line rotation, calculations to its Merkaba and set line condition setting. This sets lines and splits its location setting, rotation surface, and set location higher channels into the line calculation setting to hard calculation tesseract and operation surface and a new ground of its earth line position to its operation setting. Okay, done by equation. Geometry line center location of box lines and position of triangulation line interference is now set up. Okay, so how to set these things up is we understand the geometry line interference locations. We take the GOD rectangle line connection setting, box line condition of 1, 0, 1. Line conditions equal lines, center line condition system. We take the 1 line. Add line connections, high center of 4. Line condition equal locations of 5. 5 lines, center lines is 51. Right? That's how it comes to 51. 51 channels the 50 line, 50 line, 50 line. So it's 5, 5, 5 channel line communication. So we take the line, center line is a 4, lines equal of 3, center communication of 7, 7 line condition of 7, 7 line condition of 7, 7 crosses line stream locations, opens up line communication of the moon, center lines its position location, high center interference, and travel communication, and center line conditions. Setting travel line interference. So we take the 7 line in center communication, magnetic high wave information line stream, center communication, open another line communication, open sigmoid, line interference, travel communication setting, all travel line setting and high interference into 2 line rotation surface and set locations. Done by equation. All right. All right. It's interesting to say that like conditions there, Gypsy. That's right. We're coming into the hanger sequence. All right. So setting calculation line positions, really understand how to operate locations of sequence patterns. This is coming into the hangers. All right, hanger calculations into 0 lines, equal line high center location of 1, 0, 1, equal line conditions of 51. Channel lines of 144, set line system, travel communication setting, travel line center line interference. So center calculation line interference is taking the 10 and the 11 and the 12 and then set line condition of center operation. So we take the 12 lines and it's a line condition system, 12 lines line interference, that's communication into 36 lines, 6 in rotation to the moon operation surface locations. And we take the 3 lines and 3 line center lines, 3 equal lines of 12, 12 lines locations equals position of 7, 7 line equals 3, and position location of 2, 1, and lines of 0 of operation set location system into the sun of calculation. All right, that's my equation. Now, getting in position is really understand how to basically get into the sectors, vectors, and quad line setting. Now, it's all calculated, modify how you switch. Very good, Gypsy. It's how you switch formation location to a system. It tracks lines as high set calculation streamline. So center line is magnetic higher interference location to your clouds. It's center line communication, right? Now, the cloud line channel sets line communications, all right? Back force line communication streamlines, through cortex location of channel lines, high center location of graph lines, it's set location electrical and high interference and travel communication. Now, indicating line interference is travel lines of 0, center communications and line interference is 1 in set locations, all right? This channel is this line center line interference. You're setting on waiting signals in set locations. This is you and channel. The operation of 0 line rotations is platitudinous location system and high channels of operational line calculation position. Now, in that direct line interference, the magnetic highway information line changes its position of directions in 3 set line conditions. Now, this channels this line center's in position location of travel into a higher calculation of crop circle location. Done by equation. Right. So everything I'm setting up is code signature patterns and directions of timelines. This is where we come into clock lines of a router, line condition high center 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in set line condition setting. Okay, so we got an Earth rotation spin, we got a sun line communication, and a moon line rotation surface. This is a clock between the Earth, the sun, and the moon. Setting calculation line interference is fluctuation line condition of 3 in the center. Line condition high center, take the 3 line center line interference. We added 1 calculations in 4 set location setting. See how it comes in 3? Triangulation 3 and 4. See how that works? So calculation modify, line interference and flux path communication, ground lines operation surface, center communication line crosses, line center line in position, also in 3 set locations, equal lines of 7 at high set location. That way equation. Now the center line communication is sun and position of the moon is traveling very fast in set line condition setting. So that's 60,000 hour lines, setting communications in position. Setting the waving line center line condition system alpha delta theta in center line communication. Okay, in center line conditions. Right? It's all set. Done. So 4 signature patterns of 3 line settings is 7 line digital code. And that digital code lines is cross circle location to its setting. It opens all signals. Setting calculation line interference is 7, 7, 7, 7 location. All right. All level set line condition setting. And direct signal center lines 1, 2, 3, 4. Center communication 1, 2, 3, 4. Center communication 1, 2, 3, 4. Set location. All right. Center line communication of a Stargate opens all position location of 3 panels and operation line setting. Setting communication of ground lines in set location 2 is position of a Fibonacci line swirl, 3 line setting locations. Setting channel line interference of 2 line rotation and security measure in set line condition setting. Travel communication and position of travel. Now the travel lines of 3 line rotates its surface location of clock line. Center line communication to position location operates its line calculation to its moon and set location setting. This redirect line calculation setting travel communications puts position location of 4 lines of 3 lines and high interference of 7, 7, 7, 7 track communications. Putting bracket line center line 7, 7, 7, 7 bracket communication lines of 6, 6, 6, 6. Second line interference line position of 5, 5 center line communication setting. Indirect line condition system 4 lines in channel 3 line conditions. 2 in position of security parameters and parameters, firewall calculation setting, 1 over pi calculation of 0 gravity, and set location setting, operation surface, and set location system. That way equation. All right. Web graphing streams and line calculation line settings, all about positioning your track lines. So in that communication system, you have to learn how to use the 0 lines and line calculation high interference of voice patterns, recognition of pattern, recognition of voice lines, and face recognition setting in back force calculation streamlines and set in high setting. Right? Every time I talk is my voice pattern changing, right? Energetic graph lines, streamlines in inner line rotation position. So this is what it looks like when you look at the Schuman resonance up close in locations. It starts looking like a graph. Electrical lines of panels of space, okay? They look like diamonds. It's a location system and track lines. The track line surfaces its lines of 3 lines, 7 line interference. It's 3 set location system, sets communications to its sun in line calculations to its mega of gamma interference and set location setting, directing signal locations. That's my equation. All right. Alpha channels, rotation routers, is a line capping high center interference travel communication system. So this is opening up higher levels of cycles, high center line settings. We got 0 line calculation setting, 1 in line rotations, and 2 and 3 line communication. So sending line communications travels, setting direct signal locations, the 0 line rotations into black surface. Setting calculation lines, changing line there, white line, high interference, and travel communication set locations. Travel communication and line interference into magnetic highway information surface locations. 3 channel line streams in position of higher center location. All right. Now this indicates plateau. Now that changes line communications into the black surface. Black surface location, it's about the condition lines of high interference, the graph line stream location, high center in position. Now this travels in line center. We change electrical line interference, electrical high positions. Changing that communication system and track lines, very powerful when you come in communication to a set line setting. Changing line communications in position of white over line conditions of black and gray. So we got lines of white and position location of black and position locations into gray set line condition setting. Triangulation of 3 lines in set location system. Travels lines and line interference and position location of box. So bandwidth line setting. Calculation of balance line and 5-5 channel line and 5 line rotations, ground line levels, ozone line interference, line condition of alpha and position of delta and position of theta, so line condition setting. That my equation. All right. Recognizing high line interference of travel communication, the centers lines and system. So really recognize the communication of its position of travels, guys. You have to really understand how to use Schuman resonance locations. Very complicated, right? Because everything I'm saying is chronological order of difference to indifference. Different to set line communications to indifference in set lines of vibration location and graph line. Okay, so you have to understand the calculation scales lines, the voice and grid lines, the pattern recognition, voice recognition line setting. It's all calculated line interference. When you're sending out voice channels in set line communication system, this channels this line setting. This opens all position location line interference. Travel communication and set lines. Okay, so it sets a pattern defense line stream. Okay, opens up signals and higher line interference and travel communication setting into your Schuman resonance locations. All right. Now, waving central line setting is really understand how to basically get into sun codes. Got a line in a line rotation interference is center communication setting and direct signals. Okay, sun comes in line calculation setting. Travels in 3 lines, setting line rotation in position location alpha channels and communication. All right. Now the moon line rotates its surface in a higher channel line stream. This overcross line conditions of both side line setting. Opposition of north and south line communication setting, the direct signal. Now this opens up a higher level channel line communication to your setting. Okay. So I'm just showing how you wave the central line communication or alpha signals. All right. So setting signals of panels is recognizing communication. Setting that line connections puts you in all levels of provision. The center lines is communication lines. You got 1 lines of 0 and position of 1 equal locations. 4 lines and 8 lines of 3. Okay, so that's 7 line channels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 channel line communication. Now, getting that direct signal location is understand how to center line equal conditions of its operation of Fibonacci line swirl. Redirect signal lines and set lines of communications, lines of 3 lines. And positions lines across locations in the 4 set line conditions. Travels position of panels, cross and signal. Arrow up and arrow and cross line. All right. Setting signal line conditionized system, 2 panels in position of 6 into the line communication of the moon that crosses up in position locations in the east wing and set line condition settings and 3 waving cycles in set location system. All right, very complicated. Now that travel line interference comes into this line calculations to its portal. The portal line center line is a rotation surface location system. Now that travels line center. 1-on-1 line interference line conditions of 4 equal line setting. That's 7 above in set location setting. Now that redirects setting line interference. Now we set line conditions on lines of 3. Sun comes in line communication of travel in the position location in center lines of calculations in line center lines in a high center in set locations. That's my question, right? So you really have to understand how to travel communication your one-on-ones. The one-on-one is a whole new level of ground lines if you Schuman Renaissance line setting. So we take the one lines of 0 and 1 in line rotation, in line condition high center, line is of 0, 0. Now the calculation line interference is line condition high system, comes in the line position of 2 set locations, all right? 2 lines is the line center line conditions. That's 1 line condition of 2 equals lines of 3. Now this is where you come into add and subtract. Now the add subtract is position location multitude level line interference of multi-layers of dimensional line conditions across the signals. Setting calculation line interference, GOD sets line communication of center. The geometric operation of its design, center lines is communication. It opens up 3 channels lines of the sun of communication rotation surface. That surface sets line communication. Center lines is graph lines and row graph lines of an open stream of calculation high interference in calculation setting. Now this redirect line interference, so we take the 3 lines and set lines of high interference, 3 equals lines of 3, line condition of levels, equal line condition of 6. 6 opens up the moon line rotation surface in the position locations in a downshift cross line stream set locations. Now this channels line interference, and if you look really, really close, you can actually see the line communication of 6 and 9 in set line conditions. There's the yin and yang. It's processed now in position of balance. You Schuman resonance now in ground lines. The operation circle location is 6 and 9 in set line conditions. Congratulations. It's all set up. So how we do it through surface channel communication line, center line, and condition high system of mega universe location channels. Operation to its position locations. Done by equation. All right. You guys are definitely going to have to watch this back again. All right, let's see here. Yeah, hanger sequence, digital square boxes and triangles, celestial switches, formation lines coming in, scooping your, connection line setting, calculations. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are coming in line calculation setting, direct system. But if you look really, really close, you can actually see the 6 and 9. Okay, it's all set up. So it's amazing how we get in position, location, or frequency pattern. We have to recognize how to use it in all calculations, guys. It's extremely powerful when you understand the ground lines of the operation surface. Operation line interference. You're standing in the center line communication. This is you standing in center location, right? Now, the connect line interference line in high system location understands its position location of ground lines. The operation surface sets line communication of levitation and travels its line center location higher center travels. Say calculation archetypes and 2 line direct line settings, clock line interference at 24 line position locations, 48 windows, 72 tracks, 144, process signals, travel lines, line interference, sun comes in line rotation surface. Now the line communication sets lines of 6, sets position locations in this set location setting. This redirect line conditions of its moon, operation of its surface locations. Done by equation. So everything I'm setting up is chronological order. Now you set these things up, you have to really understand more levels of travel setting, especially when you come into calculations to its alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega, and calculations gamma and radiation line center interference. You have to really understand how to use the gamma, sigma, or zeta calculation setting. Sigma, zeta, zeta line, zeta line, factor over line, and position locations. Zeta line equal lines of gamma line interference omega, and set location setting. Now gamma line center lines is ozone and set location system. See how it comes ozone? Bracket line calculation system forms lines in position of its hanger calculation setting. Read line and line interference of 0 operation is another ozone, bracket line calculation setting. Y line setting line in positions to its flux path communication system. Track lines its communication line stream inside location system. This formulates all calculation line interference, puts position location of 1, 0, 1 line interference, equal lines of 5, 1 line rotation interference. Weighting signal location system, quantum line channel operation stream, operation line calculation system, balance calculation setting, and position of a high system. That's my equation. All right. So really understand the operation surface when it comes to ozones, guys. How does that represent your calculations? How to use it to frequency is all levels of channel operation. Streamlines of interference is trying to understand how to use it through the vector cross location of streams. Cross the stream is extremely important because your line communication, your voice lines are changing position, location, electrical line settings. It's high positioning your line communications to your data, your inputs, your outputs, or anything through calculation lines of your connections when it comes into upgrading, downloading, or uplinking system or upgrading settings. You have to really understand how to modify line calculation setting to your voice lines because it's all connected to your alpha channels. Now, there's so many alpha channel line streamline calculation setting to your voice grid location system, but the position line direct locations get you all levels of its operation surface. You're going to calculate all line interference when you come in interception to interfacing. It's always a magnetic highway information line if it's atmosphere line that you're connected to. Three waving lines, sending line interference to travel communications, right? Center operation of U into ground operation surface locations. Centered position of two panels, line streamlines. Center calculation line, position location to sun line communication. Operates its surface location to its moon line. It rotates its surface inside location system and travel. Okay? So you have to really recognize all calculated modified when you come into lines of all calculations to a UFO line in two set locations. Travel communication, scan lines, high interference, scan lines, high interference, and ground lines operation across circle locations. So you really have to recognize how to use it now because it's all connected inside your line settings. Really understand the electrical graphs and how to use it through your navigation. This gets you in position locations, high levels into escape. Escape is very powerful because you can change geometry line interference, electrical line wires, two position locations, two panels, right? Or you got three waving line settings, set location system, interact communications, balance. So escape lines, energy lines, zero operation, in position of one, right? So one line, center lines, it's one line, zero line communication, right? So that's 101. We can put a hanger in communication in a system, travel communication line setting. So the actual Schuman resonance is becoming a energetic graph line stream to pieces and pulses together locations of vertebrates. Setting calculation of ground lines, operation of stream locations, travel line settings, and three set location of four sets. Setting calculation of ground lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and set locations, right? Travel calculations. So the actual calculation is coming into higher channels in streamline positions to your alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega, and gamma set location setting. The set location. How to use it through calculation is all through energetic graph lines, the set locations, right? Waving line, center line interference is set locations. You put a high line, center, and high interference of triangulation, 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 triangulation. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 line, center line interference of triangulation line settings. So when you really look at these things up close, you can understand the central communication of 3, central communication of 6, central communication in the lines of 9 in the center, line connection center line position of 10, and position 11, and 12 in the center location system and track line communication. All right. So it gets more complicated because now you're getting into energetic graph line streams, location of dome centers, set locations. Right? It's complicated stuff. So center in that communication gets you an all platitude line setting. It's so powerful when you get to more calculation of system positions of tracks. Okay. So I really want you guys to get into the basic foundations because you have a quiz coming up on your Schuman resonance. How to voice your line setting into zero gravity in position of 12 and position of 13, equal line consists of pi inside line system, this allocations, right? So I think we'll stop there. It's almost time for Q&A anyway. But really, you know, there's a lot of things that are set in position of track lines. You have to really understand how to use it through all formation locations, your intelligence settings. And this is where you really get into line conditions and what it means to you through vibration, how to connect with it. What does it mean? How do I understand it? Right? It rotates its surfaces and all set line conditions system inside of you. The alignment is the biggest thing for you guys to understand. You have to get in line with yourself first inside through vibration, vibratory, reverberation line setting. Anything through calculation of ground lines, operation of surface is connected to your 12 signature locations of patterns, guys. You have to recognize all communication to your alignments. The more you're aligned inside, the more you understand the vibrational graph a site location system, intra communications to your line settings of all operation. Okay. All right. Represents logic and balance system. Very good. That's exactly what it is. Yep. Extremely powerful in that positions. All right. Okay. So I'll see you guys soon. All right. Taking you guys out of division, line interference, lots of graphs, Schuman resonance, balance positions, back in earth consumption, where you are, calculations. You guys are back. See you soon. Adios.